Thanks, Herbert. Thanks, George. And thank you all for taking the time to be here today. So what I'm going to do in the next half an hour or so is to just share with you some fundamental principles of co-creation. I've been working in this topic for a while. So just by way of background, if you go back the last 100 years, in fact, in the business school, we spend a lot of time teaching our students the art of the value chain, which goes from left to right. Michael Porter has done a remarkable job of educating all of us in terms of how activities create value. So this is very well known, and most enterprises have some flow of activities. But my starting point is a little different. It's what's been happening in the world over the last 5-6 years or so with the advent of the web and all the connectivity is this right to left effect. As individuals on the yellow side of things here, we're all informed, connected, networked. We carry these things in our pockets. Everywhere we go, it's just at a doctor's visit. By the time he went out and came back, I was checking on some things. He was telling me about my eye. I had my eye checked up. And then he was saying, everybody seems to do that these days. So there's good news and bad news there for him, I guess. So this notion of being in a new age of stakeholder engagement, that's kind of upon us. And what I'm essentially going to argue is that this whole paradigm of co-creation is really about blending the blue and the yellow. And as we know, if we blend the two, we get green. So it's not about taking a blue Lego piece and a yellow Lego piece and saying, yeah, let's fit them together. That's not co-creation. Call it whatever you want, collaboration, partnerships. It's really trying to harness the creativity on both sides and kind of taking the yellow and the blue, kind of mixing it up. And like my 4-year-old son, kind of, he had this aha moment. He said, whoa, green. Where was the green? Was it in the blue, in the yellow? So I think this notion of harnessing both individual and collective intelligence is very important. And what I'm going to try and do is to kind of give you some core principles of co-creation, and then we can have a discussion. And hopefully throughout the day, we can come back to different elements of it. So I started work on this actually back in 1997 with the late C.K. Prahlad. We worked for about 7 years together, culminating in this book, The Future of Competition. That's the one that Harbir had mentioned, of co-creating unique value with customers. And then a strange thing happened. You see there's a discontinuity in 2005. That was kind of the advent of social media. In fact, 2006 was the year of YouTube. When we wrote that book, there was no YouTube, there was no iPad, there was no iPhone, and so on. All we knew was these technologies are going to come. And like we said in the book, we're just amplifying the weak signals. And we kind of try to imagine a world in which people are very connected. And kind of what is the implication when stakeholders are so involved? Will they want to participate in the value creation process itself? And so over the last 5 years or so, as I've traveled around the world trying to kind of understand how companies were engaging stakeholders, I've come across a lot of examples, and I have a feature in the book, The Power of CoCreation. I've studied over 20 sectors, over 40 companies from various walks of life, and they're all featured there from different parts of the world. One thing I found in common was it is happening everywhere around the world, and all enterprises, private, public, social, were really engaging stakeholders. And so I actually moved my own thinking from just kind of looking at co-creation in terms of this relationship between companies and customers, and Harbir has already mentioned, looking at the enterprise, as he called it, an embedded actor, and really in a larger ecosystem. And so a lot of this work tries to kind of show that that's already upon us, and we have to start having this kind of ecosystem level of thinking. And where I'm going next is to try and kind of understand how enterprises can actually make this happen. Today, there's a lot of intent, but moving from intent to reality involves a lot of work, as you know, in terms of actually implementing co-creation and governing it. So what I'm going to do is kind of give you kind of a definition of co-creation. People always ask me, do you have kind of, what is co-creation? What exactly is it? So I'm going to take a shot at it in one slide, and I'm going to give you kind of the key components as I see them. Then I'm going to just take 4 examples. I have over 40 examples in the book, but I've chosen these 4 carefully to kind of motivate the kind of 4 different aspects of it. And hopefully you can see kind of the power of co-creation. So what exactly is co-creation? Well, first of all, we're talking about value creation in some joint fashion. That has been already mentioned. But really, it's basing it on a couple of principles. One is thinking about human experiences. Human experiences are really the foundation of co-creation. When you think about engagement, engagement results in experiences. So how do we start thinking about experiences and not just the goods and services we deliver? Then the next part of it is, as people become involved, they want to be engaged, as we'll see, in very inclusive, meaningful, creative, and transformative ways. And so I define that as kind of the heart of co-creation in terms of having some kind of a platform through which people can engage. You can think of this room as a platform. And once you actually start thinking of it, in fact, George and I were talking about how we might even redesign the way in which we engage. We are reflecting on kind of the round table and saying, this part is going to be empty. We're reflecting on our Starbucks experience, actually, where we said, gee, when you go to Starbucks, we see, all these people sitting at these tables. There's one person occupying a table with 4 chairs. If we redesign it, we can pack more people in. More people can participate in the Starbucks in-store coffee experience. So once you start actually thinking whether it's a live setting, a meeting like this, or as I'll show you shortly, a product or service itself can be a platform. We can think of stores as a platform. The Apple Store is a classic example. We can think about call centers as platforms. That example is the book. We can think of like communities as platforms. So engagement platforms are essential to actually practice co-creation. Now, the other part of it is we're really talking about expanding the ecosystem. So to me, these are the 3 key pieces. Value creation based on experiences, through engagement platforms, and that expand ecosystems. So I'm actually going to start with the engagement platform, because the next question you're probably asking is, what the heck is an engagement platform? So what's an engagement platform? Well, there are 4 pieces to that. If you actually look around you, if you think of this kind of meeting as a platform, first you'll see other people around you, right? So people are integral part of a platform. Now, then you'll see like artifacts in the room here. There's a projector, there's a screen, there's a table. So there are artifacts, and then there are processes by which people might engage with each other. And then there are interfaces through which we can engage today. All kinds of interfaces, even from kind of smart surfaces to actually devices being smart, and so on and so forth. So if you think about an engagement platform, you can think about it as kind of how we assemble people, interfaces, processes, and artifacts together. So that's one part of it. But in a way in which its design, so design is very important here, its architecture actually evolves, because as we reflect on experiences today, we might come back and say for the next meeting, we might want to make certain changes in how perhaps this room is structured, how the conversation gets structured, and how people actually realize value out of the meeting. And so that gets us to the notion that this platform should be designed as much as possible, as we'll say, to make the engagement very meaningful, as inclusive as possible. So we bring in a diverse set of ideas to enhance creativity in the room and also make the engagement very transformative. So that's the kind of my academic hat here. So I'm going to take that hat off for a minute. I'm going to walk you through 4 practical examples of companies who are actually doing some elements of this co-creation, not all of it, different kinds of emphasis. The first one is Nike. And one thing I've learned is in order to kind of explain co-creation, I try to use a lot of videos. I'm going to use some videos today. Someone once told me, pictures are worth 1,000 words, but a video is worth 1,000 pictures. So we'll just, let me just kind of show you what Nike has done with Nike Plus, what we would call an engagement platform that it introduced 5 years ago. And hopefully it'll work.
Runner, huh? Fantastic. Well, if you like running, you're going to love running with Nike Plus. Picture yourself out on a run. With Nike Plus, that run becomes an endless parade of information about you. How fast you're going, how far you've gone, how long you've been at it, how many calories you've burned, it's all there, which is awesome on its own. But when you download that run to Nike Plus, you get your doors blown off. You'll see every run you've ever done, all the details, the whole enchilada. Pull up maps of your runs. You'll know exactly where you got lost. Got any friends? Awesome, put them to work. They can cheer you on while you're running by posting comments to your Facebook page. Better yet, challenge them. If they're really your friends, they'll still talk to you while they're choking on your dust. Nike Plus recognizes and rewards you for your efforts.
I'm Allison Felix. Congratulations on your fastest 5K ever.
And when you're ready for your next challenge, Nike Plus will take care of that too. It'll create a training program for you and help you stay on the path to victory. See what I mean? Doors blown off. Now go grab your shoes, get yourself some Nike Plus, and let's get out there. Okay.
First, are there any runners in the room by any chance here? Yeah, people go running, casual running at least, not marathons. Okay. So if you're a runner, I met a lot of runners who use Nike Plus. Man, I tell you, they think it's like the greatest gift from God to them, because they've been forever running and timing their run, you're checking the pulse, you'll see them at traffic lights, and they're interested in their pace and how many calories they burn. In other words, they want to get engaged with their own running experience. And so suddenly here comes a platform called Nike Plus, which totally transforms their whole kind of everyday running experience by actually allowing them to have transparency into their own running. Now, what is interesting here is, as you can see, Nike has brought together something smart. So you started with a sensor that you put in your shoe, and it collects data, transmits it to a device. It could be an armband or iPod or your iPhone today. And then essentially you can go online, and today there are close to 3 million runners online. They want to grow this to 50 million. In the first year, their market share actually went up 10% in a $3.6 billion market. And there were 600,000 people who started using the system. Now, what I want to point out here is not so much that this is a platform, but how it has evolved. And that evolution of a platform is very critical. So, for example, when it first started, a lot of people actually don't know this, but it actually started as a social network. Nothing to do with this collection of data. No analytics behind it, so to speak. It was just a network people could go, put in the profile, try to find other runners, have chats with other runners. So that was happening in actually one part of the company. In another part of the company, somebody was creating the sensor. They have been experimenting with the technology. And they said, gee, we can use this to actually get data about your running. So when it was first launched, it started with this idea that you could have transparency into your data. And then people realized that it's not just me having the data. It's still a lot of value for me personally, but my ability to share it with others, whether with my trainer, with my coach, or just friends, as you saw in the video. So the notion of really expanding the community side of it was born, and actually these two initiatives merged, and they created this big platform. Meanwhile, they realized that this partnership was actually with Apple. So Apple played a very integral role because you had to use the Apple iPod Nano originally. Meanwhile, what happened was they actually realized through the platform, because when people have conversations, some people would say, gee, I don't like to run with music, actually. I just enjoy nature. What about me? Why can't can I take this? I don't want to actually strap my kind of iPod when I run. So Nike actually came up with this kind of armband because they realized there was a big market for that. And so today you can use that. And then along came the iPhone. So today it turns out if you have the iPhone, you actually don't have to pay $25 for the sensor or $50 for the armband. It's free. It's an app. Okay, so now what happens? So now you can see, okay, if I already have the app, I'm not giving Nike any additional revenues. So Nike said, gee, we still want people to use this and engage with them, and they've been constantly enhancing the functionalities of the system, right, in terms of creating these new experiences like your ability to map your run and so on, which creates enormous value. But this is where the firm as an embedded actor comes in, because all of a sudden now, the attention shifts to marathon training organizers, fitness clubs, all the coaches, and they're all partners in the ecosystem, and that's where the revenues are being made because the app is free. Now, still, if you don't have an iPhone, there are 200 million Android users, for example. Well, then you would have to use the armband, or they have a watch today. So there are various ways in which they've actually grown this platform to actually expand this ecosystem, both in terms of the runners as well as the other partners in the system. And the last point I want to make here is that it's not only engaging people around their experiences, but actually getting the yellow people to kind of wear a blue hat, bring them into the blue side. And so Nike has co-opted some runners who actually play the role of journalists. They actually report from the events they run in. They've given them a quote-unquote YouTube channel, so to speak. It's actually on Nike's site. And so whenever you're going for an event, you'll actually see some runners who are actually Nike run reporters. They don't work for Nike, but they essentially help Nike kind of expand the experience people have around events. So this is actually using the community as a source of competence. It's a free resource. They don't get paid. So it's kind of interesting. Yet they generate so much value on the blue side for Nike. Now, interestingly, what Nike has also done on the product side, if you think of the product itself, so the Nike Plus is the product as a platform. This one is an example of where a platform is used to create a product. It's the other way around. So in this example, so Nike, you can customize your shoes. You go to NikeID.com, you can do that. But here's the point. When Nike had the platform, people were saying, okay, this is great, but I have issues with color matching. You give me this wonderful color palette, color wheel, but it's very hard to kind of specify the kind of green that I want, for example. Okay? So today, thanks to technology, what you can do is, let's say you went for a soccer game, you took your kids, you love that color of the grass that's green there. You say, I want that green in my shoe. Simple. Hit, you get a little square, it takes that color, they do all the reverse mapping back to the color wheel, figure out what exactly does that mean, and voila, you get a color that's closer to what you're looking for, thereby ensuring that your experience is even more compelling. So there's a lot of innovation that's happening kind of behind the scenes. So to kind of summarize here, you can think of this engagement platform that you see in the center. And really what we're saying is that you need to kind of see how the value kind of flows back into the ecosystem and how it expands the ecosystem, and continuously pay attention to enhancing the quality of engagement through dialogue. So dialogue is a very important building block. Transparency, access, and reflexivity. These are the 4 things we've identified over the years as being very central to ensure that that quality of the engagement is very compelling. Now, in terms of building capabilities, and we have a lot of discussion today, what you actually see is that so far I've talked really about the product and service offering as a platform or using a platform, like I said, to create the offering. But engagement platforms can be actually anywhere in the ecosystem. You can use it to generate ideas and insights. There's a lot of stuff you'll hear today on open innovation and crowdsourcing. Those are all examples of platforms that help harness ideas, especially outside the blue, but also inside the blue, as I will argue in a minute. It's both. It's actually anywhere in the ecosystem. So generating ideas and insights, and today we can do that very cost efficiently, thanks to, again, technology's ability to do that on a large scale. Then we'll see how platforms very quickly can also help you harness resources in the network. We saw how you can harness resources of customers and communities outside the blue, but we'll see how actually people are creating new business models in terms of the network resources. So I'm actually going to take the example of Starbucks next to see kind of what Starbucks has done in terms of using platforms to generate ideas. Then I'm going to take the example of Local Motors, a company I just visited actually, which actually rolled out its first car. And they have a whole ecosystem model actually approach for actually building cars. And then the whole kind of arena of co-creation inside the blue. You'll notice the employees are on the yellow side. You know, when you think of inside the blue, all the employees are the yellow. So the question really is, how do you actually engage employees in a much more participatory way, which enhances obviously the business value for the enterprise, but also makes their life and work environments much more productive and more meaningful. So we will look at the example of Orange in a minute. And then, of course, all of this ultimately is tied to product service offerings, which is where we started. So, okay, so I'm going to, I'm just keeping track of my time here. So yeah, in the next 10 minutes, go through 3 quick examples. So Starbucks, what is interesting is in 2008, Howard Schultz came back as CEO of the company because he found that Starbucks was caught between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, you had McDonald's, which serves lattes, right? Yeah, very efficiently. You can go in there and get a latte. And now, Starbucks folks will argue about the quality of the coffee, but you know, it's a latte. It's good enough for a lot of people. So that's one side of the story. On the other side, you have all these local coffee shops making handmade lattes. They have the luxury of having just 4 stores to deal with, provide free parking, pay attention to those tables, make sure there are plug points on the table to work, and there's art on the wall, and things like that, right? To make the whole coffee store experience much more compelling. Now, you're Starbucks, you got 8,500 stores. What do? How do you now compete in this world where pretty much people have understood that it's about the experience? So what Starbucks did as part of the kind of turnaround strategy, they've been remarkably successful in the last 3 years, but this was the important pillar. It's called mystarbucksidea.com. So anybody can go into Starbucks and say, okay, that's your Starbucks experience. So that's the centerpiece here. You can share, vote, and discuss ideas that you have to actually enhance the experience. It could be product ideas, could be the experience of ordering, payment, pickup, the atmosphere in the store, the design of the store, or it could be how Starbucks can get better involved with the communities around in its social responsibility initiatives, etc. So when you post an idea here, you have to actually tag it to kind of what part of the Blue's activities are you referring to here. And so it's structured in that sense. But it allows Starbucks to actually engage with their entire customer and I would say non-customer base. There are non-customers also who can participate to actually provide ideas. And what is interesting is every month they actually have 2 people from Starbucks. It could be somebody from R&D or technology or emerging markets, but who play a quote-unquote customer-facing role for the moment, for that month, who take a couple of initiatives based on these ideas that is not only that they have reviewed and they've found a business case for it, and it makes kind of business sense, it's feasible, it's viable, but also the fact that they actually share with you what Starbucks is doing with it. So what's actually in the works? In fact, typically if you read the titles, this is from last month, so Cindy works with the mobile and emerging platforms, so we know it's a mobile and emerging market idea. Megan works with the R&D team and with nutrition, so it's something to do with the food line, and they're heavily into wellness these days. So that's one part. We don't have time to get into kind of how that engagement actually works, but what I find interesting is they actually put the scorecard online in terms of some of their external activities like ethical sourcing, environmental stewardship, community involvement. They actually share goals they did not achieve. and invite ideas from people saying, gee, we wanted to reduce electricity consumption or water consumption or energy use. And we did not achieve it. For example, we wanted to reduce energy consumption by 25%. We reduced it by 1.6%. Well, at least you can start trusting them a little bit, because you'd say, gee, if you had said you have achieved it, it's kind of hard to believe. So they say, yeah, we haven't, but are there any ideas out there? So very focused. They have challenges on their site occasionally. So that's the example of ideas and insights. I'm going to now give you quickly, we can expand our minds here, in terms of probably one of the best examples I've come across of a next generation enterprise. In fact, it's called the Next Generation American Car Company, and it's just one of my favorite examples of the moment. It's just fascinating. So let me just show you Local Motors.
Even if you were the richest, smartest, most talented person in the world, it would still be really hard for you to make a new original car. Now you can. Join the Local Motors co-creative team to help create, develop, build, and mod brand new cars. Here's how it works. First, join the community. Everyone is invited. Next, create new cars or help develop ongoing concepts. If you're a hot designer, create new cars by participating in a competition or submit a design to Checkup for review. If you love cars, vote to decide what will be developed. All designs are protected with a Creative Commons license to promote collaboration, but protect your design ownership. The concepts with the most votes are developed in co-creation. Co-creation is working with your peers and the Local Motors team to help choose things like the body and interior details, and components like engines and shocks. You help develop the car and ensure it turns out the way you want. Once a car is fully developed, you can buy it and build it. Local Motors opens a microfactory in your region to build the cars you want to build. For example, Local Motors opened a microfactory in Phoenix to build the Rally Fighter. There are many more microfactories to come and more cars to build. So far, the LM Extreme is the most popular in the Carolinas, the Green Apple is favored in Manhattan, and the Boston Bullet in Boston. Microfactories mean local jobs and the most convenient service. The microfactory model is also sustainable. Since cars are built one at a time, there is less waste. Plus, Local Motors businesses allow the use of locally available fuel sources and more rapid adjustment to changing technology. Not only can you be proud of building your own car, you can be proud of buying local. Your car is special because you make it. You can even design or choose a custom car skin for the body. Every car is numbered. Only 2,000 of each design will ever be made. It only takes 2 3-day weekends to build your car in a Local Motors microfactory. Local Motors provides you all the help you need, but you are the lead builder. You can even bring someone to enjoy the experience with you. At the end of the second weekend, you drive your car home. With new understanding of how your car works, you are a better, safer driver. So when you complete the build of your own car, you join the ranks of the most responsible car owners in America. Once the car is home, you can mod it. All chassis and body data is available. Modders, fabbers, and manufacturers, click the download button to retrieve all the data you need to build anything for the Rally Fighter. You can even sell what you build through the Local Motors website. Local Motors is not only co-creative, it's open source. It's that easy. You can make a new original car. Just join the Local Motors community to help create, develop, build, and mod your car the way you want.
So I guess you get the idea here. Happy to talk more about the model itself. Just want to highlight a couple of things. One is there is the end customer, but in the front end, actually, there's a whole set of stakeholders involved in the design process, and that's not necessarily the end user, just to point that out. So there's actually a crowdsourced competition for designs. In fact, the first one that's just being rolled out, they've built 800 of them already, is the Rally Fighter, which I had the good fortune of sitting in last month. The designer was Sang-Ho Kim, who won $25,000 for this design competition. And it's just amazing. So yeah, it's niche, costs $50,000. But what is interesting is the whole the model that's been set up. So they recognize, again, to use that phrase of being an embedded actor in the ecosystem, they built the whole ecosystem. So you have that crowdsourced part. As a customer of the car, you actually go and you have to actually build the car. You can come back to why that's the case too. But you have one person next to you. So there's the yellow and the blue kind of working together. You actually have to tighten the bolts. And then there's actually a window outside where you can bring in your friends, and you can also have a web camera and share the experience online. So there are those kinds of things in terms of that particular platform for actually building the car. There's a whole design process. And then, as you saw, it's open source. So the whole aftermarket is open. Anybody can build on top of it, and you can build parts. If it's liked by the community, you can sell it. And they actually, just like the Apple model, provide the whole infrastructure, and they keep a cut for building the platform. And instead of building an app, you're building a body part for the car, or a skin, or some part, and you get paid. So that whole Apple kind of model, as we can see, is kind of like a metaphor for kind of new types of ecosystem level models. Okay, my last example here is Orange. And Orange, essentially, this is an example where Orange had done a lot of work with external stakeholders in terms of partners and developers. But one of the things they realize is they need to really get their employees engaged. Public sector heritage company in France, 88,000 employees. It blows my mind the last 5 years, 40,000 of the 88,000 have submitted one idea, not just gone to the website and clicked on it. And that's a remarkable example here because they've created this whole platform called ID Click, where anybody in the company can post an idea. And I think what's hard to see here is the stuff behind the scenes, which is this whole process for actually managing the ideas inside the organization. And they have this whole flow of ideas. There's a whole model for how the employees' ideas come into the system, whether it's local or national. They have developed an entire team of people at the corporate level to actually take those ideas, vet it in terms of whether the ideas make sense, move it to a pilot. And they have generated 100,000 ideas in the last 5 years and implemented 10,000 of them and netted about 900 million euros in savings and earnings. So it can happen in a large bureaucratic organization. I'm just going to show you a short video which kind of explains how it is. The video is actually from 18 months in, so mid-2008. And I'll come back and update the numbers once we're done with the video. So anyway, you saw the numbers like 16,000 employees. Like I said, it's about 40,000 now. But what is very interesting is that this whole notion of employee engagement, like through co-creation and innovation from the employees, I'm finding getting a lot of attention, for example, in India. And one of the reasons is that, I don't know if you know this, but half of India is less than 24 years old. That's 620 million people. And the basic point is they're all growing up with this. Like my daughter and son, who wants to text me all the time, have Skype with me. Even my 4-year-old, he gets on his iPad and he says, hey, let's have a Skype session. It's just not him, it's his friends too. So I think this whole world of interactivity, like one CEO told me, if we can't engage this kind of new generation of employees and they're our future customers, we won't be able to kind of sustain the organization. So at least I know a lot of Indian companies because they have the opposite problem that other companies have in terms of aging customers and employees. Here they have the exact opposite. So at least you can see that this kind of a model might be very critical when you're faced with engaging a lot of young Gen employees, or Gen Y or Gen whatever employees. So so I asked David Richards, who actually is the brainchild behind this. I said, what would you say are the key success factors? So he gave me 6 of them, which I'll share with you. One is, he said, it's the participation contribution, the fact that any employee can contribute and post, and it's easy. Of course, it's Orange Telecom. You can do it on your phone. And he said, as simple as it sounds, makes a big difference. Like one of the employees went for a soccer game, looks at those lights up there, suddenly gets an idea saying, gee, we could use this to change the way we do network installations and drive things in the ground. You saw a little bit of that. Normally, he said, kid would have said, hey, I want to have something to eat. Then you go, or you get some beer or whatever, and then you forget about it. Or even if you have had a desktop system, then Monday morning you have to remember, Monday morning you're probably in 20 meetings. So things just, so it's not rocket science. People have ideas, but not an easy way. Now, what did he do? He just pulls out his iPhone and punches the idea. Okay, then he forgets about it, actually. We all do. Monday morning also he forgets about it. But aha, this phone works 2 ways. Gives him an alert. Hey, remember you posted this idea? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, it came back to me. Now, it's a very important part because as simple as it sounds, just allowing people to very simply input ideas and participate in a very easy ways, there's so much of human creativity and potential to be kind of tapped into. So that's the one. They can contribute to various ideas, solve problems, and they really expand this platform. There's a whole thing about recognition and reward. So as you go through this, you get different number of points, depending on where you are, and a bonus at the end. The points are not cash points. They actually redeemed at an e-commerce site. And then they realized they had to design that platform with the users because people just didn't want electronic items. They wanted all kinds of things. Some people wanted charity organizations. Some people wanted unique products. Actually, mugs are very popular because you can't get them anywhere with the ID click. I'm an innovator mug, proudly displayed by people, 40,000 people now. So I think there are all kinds of things you need to do. You saw them giving T-shirts and so on. Then the whole vision allegiance, as he calls it, employees understand by doing and contributing, becoming actors of the strategy. And then community belonging, personal development, knowledge and skills development by linking innovators, the employees are innovators, to the experts, people with expertise in the company. They have 5,000 experts now. And this whole knowledge sharing amongst employees, but leading to actual projects and initiatives in the organization that get deployed. And ensuring that the employee can actually participate all the way through to deployment, which is a very important principle. Complete transparency. There's actually a dashboard. You can go in and you can actually check, just like your FedEx package, where your idea is in the system. Very important. Not a black box. So you submit an idea, never hear from. Or a black hole. Okay, so actually enhancing the environment. All employees can influence their own work environment, their own experiences. So we started with Nike and the runners' experiences. We ended with the employees and their work experiences. It's all the same. It's about the human experience. And so I really believe that co-creation has the power to actually change our future together in terms of creating better world environment around us, badly needed in these times. On the one hand, we can see the potential for developing the ecosystem and tapping into human capability. There's a whole lot of interest in private-public social partnerships and building the infrastructure of ecosystems together. Lots of debates about the role, especially in the US, of the government, etc. Different models around the world. Regulation, the whole governance of the system, and ensuring that we build sustainable models and ensure the ecosystems are very resilient to shifts in the system. So to conclude, I actually think co-creation is much larger than just engagement. It's really bringing together different ways in which people can contribute. So we have the profit.coms of the world, we have the social.orgs, of course we have the public.govs. But is there a way in which the three sectors can engage? I believe there is, and I call it human.exp, which is the center part, the human experience, which is common to the way in which all the enterprises engage. And that's where I'm kind of going next, in terms of saying, okay, we need to have some theory of co-creation in terms of how firms can be those embedded actors. How do you think about ecosystems? How does value get created? How do it get shared? I'm sure there's some questions here about IP issues and things like that, which we'll cover today. But the whole notion of human experience as being kind of central to it and how we build platforms together. And I think it has the power to actually transform markets, economies, and societies. And we see at least early signals of structural discontinuities. And when you look around, whether it's the Middle East or Occupy Wall Street. With that, thank you very much and all the best to you.